Okay. We are going. All right, so I think I'm just going to get started here. So thank you to everybody for joining tonight. We have a pretty good list of folks that are starting to roll in slowly. My name is Nellie. I am the Outreach and Education Manager here at the Cannabis Control Board. And this is sort of a new experience for me being out on this side of the camera. I'm usually the one sort of behind the camera, facilitating a lot of the board meetings and everything like that. So I'm really excited to be kind of on the other side of things tonight. This is the first of a series of bi-weekly events that the CCB is going to be facilitating on a number of different topics, all kind of related to the newly regulated cannabis world. A list can be found at ccb.vermont.gov/2023 networking, and I'll put that link into the chat later on in this meeting, so people can go look at the list of the events that we have planned for the first half of the year. Tonight's event, however, is going to be on navigating running a new business. You know, the first few years of any business can be notoriously rocky, and this can be especially true for a field that's only recently moved into the regulated sphere, especially here in Vermont. You know, we at the CCB are really right there with you and figuring some of this stuff out. We're building this plane as it's already flying, really. We've used that analogy at several points throughout our time meeting, and I think it really holds true. You know, we're working to figure out these regulations, and then we're also seeing how they work as they unfold. And we do recognize that we are regulators. We're not business owners. And so there are some challenges that are truly unique to the world of running a business. And so on that note, we've invited tonight a number of folks from the business community to come and speak with you all on some of these challenges, and, you know, answer some of your questions as well. We have with us tonight, we have Scheril Mary Powell. She is the Business Development Manager at Creative Services Incorporated. We have Marlena Tucker-Fishman. She is the co-founder and chief cannabis guide at Zenbarn Farms in Waterbury, Vermont. And we also have Meredith Mann, who's the owner of Magic Mann in Essex.
Meredith.
There she is.
So I do ask again that if you aren't presenting, to please keep yourself muted and to keep your camera off for the time being. There will be an opportunity later on in the meeting for everyone to kind of chime in and ask questions and kind of network with each other and everything like that. The chat for this meeting is open, so that is different than a typical Cannabis Control Board meeting. So if you have questions or just want to like pipe in with anything that you have to add to the conversation, please feel free to do so. How I'm envisioning tonight going is we're going to have some brief presentations by our panelists. We'll have Scheril do her presentation first, followed by Marlena, followed by Meredith. They'll each give a little bit of their experiences, things that they've encountered in this world of business. And then we'll have some time after that to open the floor, have folks who have joined ask questions, pipe in with anything that they've learned or anything that they've experienced that they think their fellow community members might find useful. So with that, you didn't come here to hear me talk, so I will turn it over to Scheril. Take it away.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I have a long history with the Vermont CCB. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the leadership. And, you know, Nellie, thank you for keeping me up to date on everything that's going on and when meetings are. I couldn't have developed this relationship without your constant communication, so I appreciate that. My name, as mentioned, is Scheril Murray Powell Esquire. I'm a cannabis, agricultural, dietary supplement, trade, and also psychedelics attorney. I am based in Florida and New York, and I am really pleased to say that the Vermont CCB is a client of CSI Creative Services, where I'm the business development manager. I'm going to share my slides, so bear with me while I get my slides up. Are you seeing this screen here where it says people, policy, purity?
We're seeing a screen saying, how do you want to join your Teams meeting? If you have multiple screens, you may need to drag it over.
Okay, so I just ended that my share. I apologize for. All right, here now it's telling me which one I can share. Please let me know if you're now seeing the presentation.
This is the presentation. Yes.
All right, excellent. I apologize for the technology challenge of pulling up the slides. So this is a presentation that I really love delivering. I have a strong background in human resources in addition to being an attorney, and I also was an executive in the wireless industry before I even went to law school. So, I really feel strongly that your people are the core of your brand identity. So let's talk about that. This presentation is called People, Policy, Purity, Profits, Building High-Performing Teams in Cannabis. A lot of times, when you talk about, the background screening industry, with our recent enlightenment and understanding of, the war on drugs and equity and people being excluded from certain professions, usually background screening companies, get a bad reputation. But, one thing that I can say about CSI and the work I've done there, we are really focused on helping our clients build high performing teams. And we'll talk a little bit about that along with the other elements. So high level on me, I mentioned all the areas I practice in. I'm the business development manager for CSI. I have my own consulting firm for agricultural and cannabis. I'm also the chair of the ASTM D37 Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion subcommittee. ASTM is an organization that's been around for over 110 years. And they write standards for everything from stop signs to, face masks and hockey sticks and also cannabis. So I'm very engaged as an executive board member there. I've done government relations work. I've legalized in 7 states as far as cannabis is concerned. I do international work. I'm on the Bureau of Standards Committee for Cannabis in Jamaica. I am a licensed hemp farmer, and I've been licensed in 4 states, and I currently still have my farm in Florida. I am a former general counsel for M4M. I was their first general counsel, and I still have a strong relationship with the organization, and I work a lot with Black farmers as well. So CSI, again, you guys, if you do have a license already, then you went through our background screening process through the CCB. And we really do believe that not all background checks are created equal. And again, our focus is helping you build high-performing teams, not on finding reasons to exclude people. So just talking high level about CSI, we're 45, now 46, going on 47-year screening company. We are members of the Professional Background Screening Association, as well as founding members. We partner with cannabis regulators. We partner with licensees. We're experts on using screening to build high-performing teams. We're equity verification experts. And we possess an entrepreneurial spirit. We have one owner who's still the president of the company, Alan, and we help people who are starting entrepreneurs benefit from our experience. And our customer satisfaction is really high. We serve all of these industries and so many more, but cannabis is what we're here to talk about today. So, looking at the cannabis industry and where you are, and we're talking about your first 5 years, developing a cannabis company that is profitable, that will last. There's a challenge because, if you're anything like me, I'm a cannabis activist. I always say I lawyer to fund my activism. As I've gone through this legalization journey, most of my work has been around creating the industry that I would like to be a part of. but you have to have a certain level of professionalism. So traditional cannabis companies, we resist the transition to becoming more corporate. Sometimes we may feel like, oh, if I do all these compliance measures, am I still that activist? And I say yes. The best thing that you can do as a licensee and an activist is keep your license so that traditional activist spirit is present in everything you do as a brand. We need to have that balance between remaining true to the culture and activism of cannabis and having professional standards. And that has to be a part of the tapestry of the entire company. So as we grow as a company, we need to be able to scale service as well as production. A lot of times we talk about scaling production, and sometimes we're pleasantly surprised by how successful we are, but we have to make sure that that service scales as well. Usually with a new cannabis company, the CEO is like a cubicle away or a desk away. And then as you scale, they become more and more distant. And the things that a CEO or a president or other executives would do, they need to be able to delegate that, but delegate it in a way that it's consistent with that brand identity. So another challenge that we face is access to capital. The three areas of concern for banks are depositories, lending, payment processing. So as a result, a lot of our industry is dependent on private funding. A lot of my work has to do with making sure that as our new licensees are looking for funding, that they're not placed in predatory situations. So in addition to the things I mentioned before, I run a nonprofit based in New York, but it's an international nonprofit called the Justice Foundation. And I specifically work with the legacy community and help them transition into the legal space. And that includes contract review and other activities to make sure they don't have to get into predatory situations. I also, because I do the work for them for free to get them their licenses and help them with licensing deals and things like that, they're less reliant on funding sources early on in the process. So as we know, traditional banks are reluctant to lend, but we have credit unions and we have a growing number of traditional banks that are interested. CSI, we're actually founding board members of CFIG, which is a Cannabis Financial Industries Group, because we are invested in making sure that this banking challenge is resolved to allow more small businesses, equity-based businesses to grow. Equity issues in cannabis, we have the war on drugs history. So we're looking to make sure that as we're building high-performing teams and helping you build high-performing teams, that we are including this community, people of color, as well as people from lower socioeconomic status who, again, those two things are not the same, and small business as well. We want to make sure that those people are allowed to be integrated into our legal cannabis industry, partially as a remedy or reparations for the harm that was done to those communities. And again, making sure that they're not subject to predatory lending. So the reality of cannabis is it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's a global industry, and mainstream players are getting more interested. So it is a daunting task. And again, with my clients through the Justice Foundation, who I call Justice Fellows, a lot of them, once they get their license, they get nervous and they're like, what if it becomes saturated? I have to make sure I get everything up and running before the big players get in and box me out and things like that. And I tell them, and I was actually at a session with the New York Cannabis or Office of Cannabis Management yesterday and today, and I'll be there tomorrow. And I'm meeting these new licensees, fresh, like having a license a month ago. And I say, enjoy the process. Identify your key milestones, celebrate those milestones. So, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Don't worry about what the competition is going to look like when big players are more engaged. Worry about the things that any business would have to think about. And the example I use is the water industry. You legit can get water from your tap for free, but it has not hindered the water companies from being bottled water companies from being successful. So it comes down to quality. It comes down to marketing. So really be the best cannabis company that you can be. And also recognize that cannabis is as essential as food and pharmaceuticals. So that was a huge milestone for us as a community during the pandemic. So when we're talking about the people, which again is my passion, there's diversity in professions. As a lawyer, the cannabis covers every area of the law, whether it's administrative law, health law, family law. It touches all of those areas. And as a business owner, you need to think about that. So you need to have expertise in employment or have someone who can direct you as far as employment law. You need people as far as OSHA and that type of compliance, as far as finances and contracts and things like that. So really think about the fact that cannabis touches every area of the law. And as a business owner, you need to be prepared and have sufficient legal counsel to address those areas for you. Also, when it comes to thinking about people, we want to make sure we're setting the right culture. And what is the right culture? That is culture that lines up with 1, your brand identity, and 2, compliance. So you don't just get your license, you hold on to it, you keep it, you grow a household name brand that will benefit your family for multiple generations. Before you even think about hiring talent, you have to set the tone. You have to identify, what is my brand identity? What is my customer service strategy? What's my customer retention strategy? Why am I different from all the other brands that are available in stores? You need to hire the right people that align with your organization's culture and values. And you also need to vet your people to make sure that everything's verified. CSI, we're happy to help you with that. And you can make a personal appointment with me so that we can have that time and really set up what your program or the profile that you're going to use as far as vetting your people to make sure you get the right people on board who will align with your values, but also people who will not detrimentally impact your ability to hold on to your license through diversion issues and things like that. So moving on from people to policy, SOPs, we know all about SOPs and automated procedures. I highly recommend that as you're defining policies, that you store it and record it somewhere in like an intranet. There are a lot of solutions that are available for purchase so that you don't have to go through the same thought process over and over again as the same issues start reappearing. And this is really important for your customer service team, whether it's in person, like a bud tender, or it's back office. Make sure that you are recording your policies. Also, as an owner, you do things that are automatic, but once you start scaling and delegating, you don't want people to say, hey, boss, how do I do this over and over and over again? And as you hire new people, how are you going to make sure that they're trained the same way, they're following all the same policies, and those policies are accessible to them? Definitely invest in some type of intranet or compliance software so that you can store those policies and procedures. Policy goes beyond SOPs. Written policies should include how to use technology, step-by-step decisions. A lot of times we think about the technology step-by-step, and we don't think about the policy or what the desired outcome is as a resolution. Think through all those things. When I worked at T-Mobile, they had a really good approach where every policy, because I did process development, every policy that went into the intranet had a section at the bottom that said CEO. How does this policy affect your customers? How does this policy affect your employees? And how does this policy affect your owners, your shareholders, the people that you're accountable to? And I think that's a really good strategy that I continue to use today when I'm thinking about a policy or process development. Empowerment is something I cannot talk enough about. A lot of times, again, as we scale and we're moving so fast, we forget to empower. I like to use the example of a bottle of tincture can be, what, $200, $100. You should want to empower your employees up to at least a bottle of tincture so that they don't have to say, hey, manager, can I do this? Hey, manager, can I do that? figure out what that sweet spot is of empowerment where you're like, under this amount, do the right thing for the customer. And that'll save you so much cost in the long run. You'll have more invested employees that'll have better decision making, and then you'll put less of a less stress on your management level staff. You'll need to be compliant with OSHA, FCRA, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, which again, our screening services are compliant with FCRA and other federal regulations. And then when you're rolling out testing, like system changes, policy changes, test them. You know, communicate them ahead. Don't go into a meeting, come out and say, all right, we're changing this policy effective immediately. It's such a poor experience for people. Have certain days when you roll out changes. Every Monday, check your intranet for upcoming changes. That way people get into that practice. And then if someone is off that day, they don't come in blindsided because they've been prepared by knowing they need to look in this area for upcoming changes. Now moving on to the next P, which is a safe product, purity. You know, food safety regulations, you need to have a compliance officer. You need to understand food safety, especially if you're going to have anything to do with edible products and even plant products. Certificates of analysis, I'm sure that you've learned about certificates of analysis. They're essential. You need to understand them. Everyone in your company needs to understand them. You know, QR codes, scan codes are a great shortcut to get to more information or get more information to your customers, and tightly manage your chain of custody. Build those relationships with all parts of the supply chain so that you can really speak to the quality of the product at every single step in the supply chain from seed to the customer. And then labels also must match the product, but the labels need to be compliant with the standards of the Vermont CCB. Profits. This is where we're heading towards. We are a business. We're running a business. We love cannabis. We love the plant. We honor the plant. We're activists at heart, but it's a business. And it's really important, especially if you have investors, because investors are looking for some type of return. So make sure they are engaged every step of the process and know when to expect that return and know the smart decisions that you are making to protect their interests. Invest in good expense and income tracking software. I would say have an accountant from day one that you trust, that you can be fully transparent with, and you can no longer just make decisions as a cannabis enthusiast. You have to focus on profitability. You owe it to your customers so that you can continue operating and giving them this great, pure, quality product. You owe it to your shareholders. You owe it to employees so that you don't put yourself in a situation where someone's livelihood can be ended with no notice. That's such a horrible experience, and it's an even worse headline, and it's really hard to recover. So we're making decisions thinking about profitability while staying true to our culture. And part of our culture is being good to our employees. Part of our culture is being good to our shareholders and being responsible and working towards creating a new environment for multi-generational wealth for our own individual families. You need to make sure financial decisions do not negatively impact quality, because this is one of the ways that it can jeopardize your license. So in summary, you know, just going back through the P's, your people are the face of your business. They create the customer experience. Your people, they're the guardians of product quality. They need to be able to, there's a concept called in business school called the Toyota way and Kaizen, and you know, being able to have anyone on the shop floor stop production because it's not up to your standard. And I strongly believe in the empowering your people in that way. People should not feel insecure about raising a flag and saying, hey, this is off, this is wrong, because that's how we have these, again, bad headlines. You need to empower your people to know these are our standards and nothing goes out unless it meets these standards. Talking about policy, policy will ensure compliance and a consistent product. Purity ensures that you have a consistent product that contributes to the well-being. We are a well-being, a wellness, and we're coming from a medicinal space. So we always benefit the body. We do not harm the body. And profits are necessary for you to stay in business, continue to employ your community, and honor your commitments to your stakeholders while building multi-generational wealth. This is my contact information. Please feel free to use it. And I want to read to you something that stuck with me and I think is a great summary of where we are as you're building your brand. So there's a story, and it's a true story, about Lego. And there's this Lego enthusiast who's also a Star Wars enthusiast, and he bought this rare Star Wars Lego kit for $350, and it's hard to get a hold of. So he starts building his kit, and he gets to the point where, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now. He gets to the point. Can you see me? Okay, excellent. He gets to the point where he figures out he's missing one piece. So he had all this excitement about it, builds the thing, and then there's a piece missing. So he's like, oh my God, this is terrible. I haven't been able to build it. I want to show it off to my friends. And then he reaches out to Lego. And Lego's response is classic. And this speaks to how do you scale your product, but also scale your quality? How do you make sure that the same culture that you've created as your brand identity is present, whether it's you're interacting with the CEO or a bud tender or a customer service rep, and some of you may grow to be multi-state operators. So making sure that they have that consistent experience. So I'm going to read this really short letter, and it says, "Dear John, thank you for getting in touch with us and providing that information. I am so sorry that you are missing bag 14 from your Mos Eisley Cantina. This must be the work of Lord Vader. Fear not, for I have hired Han to get that bag right out to you. Have a bricktastic day, and may the force be with you." And just like that, it's very clear what the Lego culture is. It's very clear that they understand exactly who their client is. And they turned a situation that was a negative experience for a high cost product, $350, into a positive, memorable experience that was shared and cascaded as a demonstration and perfect example of what a good experience looks like. So I'm going to leave you with that. Thank you so much for your attention and time. And again, please feel free to reach out to me. Consider me to be a resource. Consider CSI to be a partner in your success as we build high-performing teams in cannabis. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Scheril. So up next we have Marlena Tucker-Fishman. Again, she's the co-founder and chief cannabis guide of Zenbarn Farms in Waterbury. And Scheril, if you could share your PowerPoint to me, you've got my email address, so I can share it with everyone who's joined this call. Thank you. All right, take it away, Marlena.
Okay. Hello, everyone. All the little initials down there. I'm Marlena Tucker-Fishman. I'm a co-owner of Zenbarn Farms, also co-founder of our Cannabis Generation Equity Fund. And education is a big part of everything I do. So I'll make a point to mention, too, that I'm a former special educator for the past 18 years and continue to apply education in everything I do within Zenbarn Farms and our ventures. And I'm not going to repeat anything that Scheril said, and I just say I second everything that she said, and that was so well in depth. I appreciate it. And just to jump right into some of what the discussion is about, some of the stumbling blocks or challenges and successes. I'm a person who learns from experience. So this is like the perfect industry or movement, if you will, to pretty much learn as you go, because it's new. It's the first cannabis retail market. So when you live your life from learning by experience, to me, every challenge is just pretty much an opportunity to learn. And then the success is once that learning becomes applied. And then my goal, one thing I like to say to you is don't have expectations, just have goals, because you can always reach a goal. Expectations can lead to disappointment. But over time, that success becomes consistent based on the wisdom that you gain over, through the experience over time. Some stumbling blocks that I've dealt with is one, not knowing what you don't know. That's a huge challenge, and it seems like cliche, but not knowing what you don't know when you're knee deep in it, and you're living off experience, you're bound to get hit with a challenge that you have to respond to and not just react. And the way that I found is best to respond is by staying ready, by having people around you that know what you don't know and being willing to ask those questions. For one, I would say if you're looking to access the cannabis industry and you're thinking and you're used to flying solo and you want to fly solo, I would say this is not the industry for you. Cannabis has always been about a cipher and connecting with other people. So if you want to do a solo business, I'd encourage pottery. But if you want to connect with people and be willing to collaborate, this is, I think, the best industry to do that in, from seed to sell and ancillary. You can take your pottery and be using it to create beautiful rolling trays or ashtrays. It's a very collaborative space, if you will. One of the other challenges, if you will, that I've come across is being able to meet people where they're at in their comfort level of buying now legal weed, and also wanting to still meet the regulations, if you will. Like, some people are uncomfortable with having their ID scanned, but at the same time, you need to keep record of how much they buy in a day and have them trust that that information is only just for us as retailers to make sure that we're maintaining the regulation. So ways that that we've done our best to still meet people where they're at and their level of comfort, and also meet the regulations, is to let them know exactly what the regulations are that we're trying to, and why we're taking the information, and also letting them know that if they want, that information doesn't have to stay in the system at the end of the day too, and just start to build that trust, and letting them know that, like Scheril said, we are still out here as advocates, and our voices pretty much do determine the legislation. So continue to advocate for more levels of comfort and accessibility in the industry. What I do love, but it's also a challenge, is some of, this is going to sound crazy, some of the limits in marketing really forces people to still connect in a very intimate way with the people that are walking through your door, building the relationship where they feel comfortable leaving you their email or their phone number so you can give them a call or text and let them know about a sale that's coming up or a private event that we might have. And then from that, being able to also tailor their retail experience more to their needs, because you're getting to know more of their day-to-day way of life. That's my thinking chant. Let's see, because I want to leave room for discussion. Meredith over there. One other thing too that I would say that's important is to really dive into your areas of weakness in this industry, because like like someone mentioned earlier, cannabis really does touch on everything. And if you're a business owner, you really do have to touch on everything. And even though you have your team players, be it that it's so highly regulated, you need to, it's important to not know everything, but be ready to learn everything, if that makes sense. So to really dive into your areas of weakness, for me, that has been the freaking technology and troubleshooting, and also what's the other one? The ask, being willing really to ask people, not for the knowledge, but it's an industry that does need finance to be able to get things on the shelves and out to people, and getting really people to understand that this ask isn't just for the business itself, but it's what we see that I could do for the whole community and generations to come. And with that, I'll just share one of my favorite quotes that I love to live by and pass it on to Meredith, because I think it really applies to what was said earlier too about holding to your vision. So it's examine the nature of commitment, what to identify with, what to become involved in, what to take a stand on, and what even to believe in at all. And that's by Hansberry.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Marlena. All right. And up next, we have Meredith Mann of Magic Man in Essex. And again, we will have some time at the end of the meeting for folks to ask questions, share their own experiences, all that sort of stuff. And the chat is open again if folks have questions or wish to connect in the meantime. So take it away, Meredith.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, excellent. Hi, everybody. How are you? I do have a little PDF, not quite a PowerPoint, that I can put up. I'm gonna try, see if I can pull that off. Did that work?
We see
Can you
it.
see that?
Yes.
All right, cool. All right. I think it was that, first of all, that was so amazing to listen to. And I think as you see what I have to say, I think we're all on the same page for sure. And Marlena, it's great to see and hear your voice. I feel like as business owners, I just can't even connect with some of the people like her that I used to be able to all the time. We've been just so busy. So it's great to see her and hear that, you know, she's doing great. And anyway, that we're all in the same boat with this. Scheril, you are amazing as well, and quite learned a lot from you and that. And I appreciate you coming to this. So, you know, me and my husband have been legacy growers and processors forever and ever. That number is definitely not a show off number. It sits as a big freaking pit in my stomach. Oh, there goes kitty cat. Sorry. Anyway, so I am a medical patient and an advocate for medical patients and the cannabis community as much as I can be. I am the owner of Magic Man and one of the owners and founder. And I've been in retail management most of my adult life. I have a degree in clay and art, so I thought that was great. Marlena brought that up as well. Mom of two boys. I have a bunch of certs from the Trichome Institute that I really enjoyed taking as well, and just love engaging with people every day. You know, our Magic Man slogan is cannabis education, no intimidation. Just like everybody else, there's so many people in this community that just need a place to feel they can trust somebody and learn. A lot of people still need to learn about cannabis. So I'm going to start with just some, you know, really respecting the plant, like every single thing that you do, from the seed, every thought you put into this business, every bit you put into energy comes out on the other side. So really try and be grounded about what you're doing and have intention with that. So you know, knowing the history of this plant and the history of cannabis and what people have gone through to get to this point does matter. So really make sure that you know that and understand it. For me, it's always been a hard balance. You know, Scheril really talked a lot about, you know, how important it is. This is your investment. But, you know, when you're a really caring, selfless, empathetic kind of person, it can be really hard to balance those. So for me, that's been a real growth spot to really be able to find that balance, and it becomes more and more in play now that we're licensed and regulated and there's a lot happening. So with that, it's really important to just know your CCB rules and regulations. It's something I just absolutely have stayed away from my whole life. I hate rules, but these are the first rules I feel are extreme. Well, maybe not the first, but the most important rules I've had to follow in order for my business to succeed. And like Scheril said, that's important to me, but it's also important to my customer base, and I owe it to them. So, there are rules that can be changed. So be that change and do it respectfully and proactively. And don't expect other people to know the rules for you. I feel that's a situation I've been in a lot. And they're right there for all of us. So really, the more in tune you are with them, the easier it'll be for you to go through this process. Share and communicate respectfully with the CCB. I know it's a new industry for all of us, but I know I've had some stressful moments throughout this process. Our CSI took 3 weeks longer than we wanted, and there were times I thought I was gonna have a heart attack. But we have to be respectful and work with them, and as the industry learns, they will learn and are learning as well. So I think having a good relationship is extremely important. So I also think being patient through this process is the hardest thing, I think, for any of us who have been through it or the people that are starting it. And just remaining honest and true to yourself and to others throughout it. Vermont is a really small place, and we really are all in this together. And we have to do our best by that. But with that being said, compliance is mandatory in this, and it's extremely important to the consumer and the process to be compliant. Being flexible, I think, is the most important thing. I think that's what's intrigued me about the cannabis industry in the first place when I was a supervisor at the medical dispensary. And being able to be prepared for anything. For example, debit card readers just got taken away from us, and we have to work on a new system. It was just got in place. We were just feeling in a groove, but you have to roll with it and find another solution. So whatever happens, you have to be dynamic. And honesty is everything. Like I said, making sure that you have positive relationships with people. And I think because people want to be through this process, it's easy to want to push forward faster than humanly possible. But in the end, it is worth it to just stay grounded. So Vermont is about craft and local. We all know that. I always call it the farmhouse effect, because my husband used to have his birthday parties at the McDonald's where Farmhouse was when he was little in the 80s. And then it was the first McDonald's to close in the country due to lack of business. And now for 20 years, or I don't know how long, sits Farmhouse with a $20 burger, and it's local, and people will go there over and over again because it's good. They know where it's coming from, and it's local. And Vermont is dedicated to its own community in that way. And I think that's what sets us apart and is an amazing thing. So anyway, I think one of the biggest struggles for all of us is rules and regulations again. And there's a lot of unknowns, and a lot of times as a retailer or probably I know a cultivator or manufacturer, that you are not exactly sure of the right answer because the rules haven't been laid out the way we need to understand them. And just to always try and make sure you do the right thing, stay on the right side of right, and do right by the whole process in the end. Being compliance minded is extremely important in this industry. It's something that most of my life I wasn't as in tune with as I have been in the last 10 years of being in the cannabis industry. And at this point, I really understand how valuable it is to the whole process and inevitably, again, consumer. Vermont should be the best craft industry in the country. I think that making sure that we're giving people clean cannabis and accurate dosing matters, and all of these things tie into compliance and COAs and reading COAs and understanding them, tracking your inventory. Again, it may be the no fun part, but again, it brings me right to the end of the list. Have a team around you, have people around you have different skill sets than you. So you have multiple people thinking about things in multiple different ways, and make sure you have people around you trust. It is everything in this industry. And having a team is much, much easier, like Marlena said, than being an island. And there's so many people that want to be a part of it. So finding those people that you resonate with. And I like that pun. I didn't mean to throw that in, but it's a good one. Anyway, this one, I always say to people, don't listen to anything I have to say. Don't listen to anyone else. Trust yourself. So many people have so many things to say. Don't get your head wrapped up in it. Make sure you know your facts and stay focused. So I just always joke to not even listen to what I have to say. Anyway, lastly, really important, give back. There's not enough businesses giving back yet, or having social justice missions or positive impact criterias. And we have so much opportunity here. There's a lot of people that are, I think, setting up to do it and to guide, but the why matters, why we're doing this matters, and our community should see the results of this in one way or another. We've chosen as Magic Man to give back to our Indigenous community, and we're about to give a $10,000 grant. And it's something we started before this because it's just really important to us, but I'd be happy to help anybody think about a way they wanted to do something that's passionate to them as well. But there's so much opportunity here. So, and again, Scheril nailed it at the end. Just, business is business. This is capitalism, and you have to protect yourself because there's a lot of players and not everybody is your best friend. And, just be a smart business person. Have a good legal team around you that you trust. And again, that's everything. So those were just my quick notes on the subject and my experience in the industry and the things that are really coming into play for me over time. I would say if you haven't started at all yet, making sure you talk to your town officials and know what the rules and zoning are in your town before you go too far is always important. But other than that, I am excited to hear what other people have to say and questions. So thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. All right. Meredith, you could stop sharing your screen and we will open this up to questions, anything like that. There we go. Wonderful. So we'll handle this just to keep this organized. We'll handle this sort of similarly to how we do public comment during our regularly scheduled board meetings. You can pop a question or a comment into the chat as well, but otherwise, please raise your virtual hand and I'll call on you. Again, you can ask questions or share some of your own experiences how you've been navigating this whole new exciting world of regulated cannabis. And again, you can feel free to turn on your cameras if you'd like to sort of put a face to your name, to a voice, all of that. And we'll go from there. So first up, we have Kirsten.
Hi, so I'm Kirsten. Excuse me, I am the retail director at Grass Queens. We're opening in Burlington soon. Thank you to the presenters. That was a lot of really amazing information. This question is mostly towards Meredith and Marlena as business owners in Vermont. We're currently navigating the hiring process. And so my first question is, how did you navigate the employee ID process with your new hires? We're kind of we're all rolling with the punches and figuring out the best SOPs for onboarding our employees. I'm wondering if there have been any hurdles and if you've had anyone who maybe is working for you that maybe is in that kind of like waiting for their ID still, and how you've navigated that. I do have a separate question. I just want to make sure I get it in. We all know that, of course, I know Meredith's story of the debit card process and what the payment solutions are looking like. We're kind of navigating that right now too and deciding the best case scenario. And so I'm wondering what you two are using, and anyone else. I noticed there's a lot of familiar names up here, so please, yeah, I'd just love to hear how everyone is navigating that. Thanks so much.
Good question. Do you want to go first, Marlena, and then I'll jump in at the end with the debit card?
Sure, and then maybe Scheril, you can hit us with the ledge, the official. So the way that we've navigated the employee cards is pretty much utilizing the CCB's website. They have a great links and a document that pretty much gives step-by-step directions on how to get the employee card. What is useful is that you have you can use the temporary employee card. So at first, before we knew that that was going to be able to be used, it was a little daunting to know that there was going to be this lagging period between you have your actual employee card and the temporary card. So that's, I think, one would be a load off of just understanding that cannabis guides, or if you call them bud tenders, can still work with a temporary employee card. And for ones that are in that limbo space, for us, we're in a unique position because we still have our CBD shop that's separate from our dispensary. So if there is someone that's in that limbo space, for us, it's a separate business that they can still work in. That's not technically falling underneath the cannabis regulations. I think that's it for me on the employee card.
Yeah, for me on the employee thing, it was harder at first. Now, sort of the beginning of the process, when I interview someone, we tell them it's mandatory, and whether they want to work at Magic Man or Zenbarn, they should go and get their employee ID card and take a bud tender training class. And I'm hoping as we go through this process, more and more people who are interested in being bud tenders go through that process on their own independently, so that they're ready to get a job when one comes their way. So I think that is a big thing for us. We also do, if somebody is already signed on to be a part of our team and hasn't started yet officially, we will pay for them to have that bud tender training as well. Magic Man will cover the costs for them. And, we help them navigate that. And, sort of like you said, we created an SOP to navigate that process. And then lastly, I'll just say we have really struggled with which payment processor to go with after this. It's easy to want to say that you're going to go, let's say, with Dutchy Pay because it integrates with every single thing that you're doing easily, but we're trying to be really cautious of the fees to us, but also the fees to the consumers and all of those hidden things. So I found this to be a lot more complex than I expected it to be and wanted to put a lot of due diligence into it. So I think in the end for us, we have decided to go with Hyper, which is a payment processing system. I don't know if anyone in Vermont is using it. Maybe they are, but it's used a lot out west. We found the fees on both sides to be a little more friendly to both and the system to be user friendly. So happy to talk to you or Jahila about that anytime.
I'll just add, because that was the thing I forgot to mention, we're using FlowHub and still have access to debit payment.
That's good.
And there was a question in the chat, just a quick follow-up, asking if you are reimbursing or paying for folks to complete their ID process.
We are at Magic Man, yes.
At Zenbarn, we are paying for people's compliance training and professional cannabis knowledge training, and we ask for them to pay for their employee card.
Thank you both so much for answering that. That's super helpful. We'll totally follow up with both of you, I'm sure, at some point in the future, because that's how amazing this community is. Thanks.
Great. Marie is next.
Hey guys, here I am. Okay, nice to meet you guys who's still here. Can y'all hear me okay? All right, sweet. I am a tier 2 manufacturer. I did get my approval, but I'm still in the process of getting my actual license because truthfully, I can't afford to do it yet. And that leads me to the topic of, okay, well, first and foremost, I want to emphasize that I did really love what Marlena and Meredith both had to say. You both have a lot of real down-to-earth wisdom there. I appreciate that. I can relate to that. And I also really relate to the whole concept of the Vermont small craft. That's what my goal is. The only reason I went with tier 2 in manufacturing was because I wanted to not limit my income. But the problem that I'm finding is, all right, let me just say this, financing. Where do you find somebody to finance when you don't have money to start? I mean, I've cleaned out my savings every step of the way, whether it be getting an attorney or whether it be, you know, buying one piece of equipment. I'm a one-man show, so there's no employees. That's a good thing right now for me because obviously I couldn't afford to do more as far as the liability of having an employee and all that comes with that. But I want to get my toes in the water, you know. This is something I'm very passionate about too. And as so many of us are, as we all are, really. And I'm so tired of being like on the outside looking in, like when can I be a part of this? So I have to ask, is anybody in the same boat, have been in the same boat, has been, or do you know of any resources, anything, grants, banks that will talk to us, you know, like anything? I throw it at me. I'm all ears.
I feel you very much for sure. I think this is I don't think anybody here doesn't resonate with that. For sure. Just when you think you have the funding you need more. And I don't know if that ever goes away. But I think for us, you know, every relationship we've ever had in our entire lives has mattered in finding those resources and finding people who believe in us. But and I think taking a real grassroots approach has been the only way with federal funding being so difficult. But I do think that it is gonna open up for loans and lending this year. You know, if that is a way that you need to go. I think it sounds like there might be opportunities in that direction as well. But if I do think of anything, I will let you know for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'll answer quickly. It was such a good point. Can't remember who said it about how cannabis touches everyone. So anyone that uses cannabis is willing to contribute in some form to a cannabis endeavor, if you will. And the really tough part is just really asking and letting the ask, being vulnerable enough to ask for what's needed. That's the main thing, is just ask anyone, ask everyone. And I can't stress that enough. As also a resource that has been great for me when it comes to like just starting to be in spaces that are beyond my regular social network is the VTPOC network. They have great connections to legislators and also other business organizations, and they really have a great platform of resources for BIPOC entrepreneurs. So I would encourage going there. And they even had this really great grant writing series too, to help entrepreneurs learn how to write grants and look for grants. And one thing I did too, because an area of weakness of mine was legislation and grant writing, was jumped on an opportunity to join a grant review committee so I can know what is needed and what people are looking for as well. And I'd be happy to connect at some other point too around some resources, but it's really down to the ask. It felt like Shark Tank sometime, but really also hold into the vision too, because anyone that has contributed financially to our business, they also contribute to our equity fund as well.
Yeah, I agree with all the feedback that's been given. I think really think about your friends and family, do a friends and family round. I think that would be extremely helpful for you. I think there's a limited amount of crowdfunding you can do without giving people equity, but some people, again, are cannabis enthusiasts, and you know, whether you're creating a wall of names in your dispensary space for people who supported you, selling bricks and that can be put on the walls. Those are things that you can do that people will support, and they'll always be able to see their names there. So yeah, I think friends and family, really make sure that you've exhausted that list. I think events as well, to get your name out there. You can charge for the events. You can, you know, you have a manufacturing license. So what's your product line going to look like? Can you demonstrate that with products that don't have THC in it, so that people can experience what's coming? And you never know who's the investor who's like, this is the best cheesecake that I've ever had, or this is the best sweet that I've ever had, or this is the best vegan healthy product that I've ever had. And if this is an indication of what you're going to be manufacturing, I want to be an investor. So you're going to have to put yourself out there a little bit to engage people and get an emotive response. People aren't just going to give you money because you need money. People are going to give you money because either they believe in what you're trying to do, they see the return on investment, and for return on investment doesn't have to mean their own profitability. It could mean it's better for the planet, it's better for people's health and wellness, and lines up with their values. So I encourage you to kind of think outside the box with regards to funding. And I know we've gone a little over, so, but I just wanted to give you those nuggets.
Great. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Well, thank you everybody for joining tonight. It is now just a little past 6, so I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. Our next networking event is in 2 weeks on January 19th, and that's going to be on energy efficiency requirements. There were a number of requirements for some applicants that were waived for the first year that are now going to be required moving forward. So it'll be a good opportunity for folks to connect, to learn from each other. We'll have someone from Efficiency Vermont here, and we're also working on having some other cultivators and licensees who have very efficient setups joining us. So again, that event is going to be January 19th at 5 p.m. And I look forward to seeing everybody there. Take care, all.
Thank you, Nellie.
All right,
you.
thank you for having me. Have a
Thank
great
you, everybody.
Thanks,
Great
everyone.
to
Thanks,
see you all.
Nellie.